What's up, everybody? Today we're going to learn how to sew a basic tank top. And just because we all sometimes want to elevate our basics, I'm going to show you how to make it in a nice pleated version. Stay tuned because I'm going to show you not one, but two techniques how to sew the tank top. My name is Sandra, and I'm the person behind Foxy Patterns. At Foxy, we make size-inclusive and fun patterns. One of my biggest goals is to encourage the beginners to sew a bit more challenging projects. To help you out with that, I'm making sew-along videos just like this one, and very detailed, comprehensive instructions with great illustrations. Today, we're going to make a Nala tank top sewing pattern. This pattern is very versatile and has a lot of variations. You can make it plain, also elevated pleated version. You can also choose between low neckline and high neckline, as well as cropped version. Besides all that, the Nala tank top comes in B and C cuff versions and ranges from US size 0 to 34. All that out of the way, let's get started. Today I'm going to make two versions of Nala tank top, the plain one and elevated with the pleats. For the pleated versions, I chose this burgundy ribbed fabric. It's quite simple and plain, which will allow the pleats to stand out and elevate the look. For the plain version, I chose this baby blue fabric with a very interesting texture. Now, because it already has a very nice texture, I believe that the pleated version would not really work with this fabric. You may ask, how do I choose fabric for this pattern? Well, first of all, you need a fabric that has at least 60% of stretch. How do you know what's the stretch percentage of your fabric? To help you out with that, in our instructions we have a stretch scale, which will help you to determine the stretch percentage of your fabric. Simply cut out a small piece of fabric and fold it in half and align it with the left side of the scale. Stretch the fabric as much as you can, and this will help you to determine the stretch percentage of the fabric. As you can see here, both of my fabrics are around 60% of the stretch. I would say that the burgundy one is a bit more stretchy than the baby blue. Therefore, the look of the baby blue will probably be more fitted. Now you may ask, can I use fabric that has less or more stretch? The answer, of course, you can. However, if you're using the fabric that has 40 or 50% of stretch, I would recommend you to make a larger size. Cut out pattern pieces and place them on the fabric. I like to pin them in place to stabilize it. But you can also use the weights. I'm cutting fabric for both tank tops at the same time. We are going to start by assembling the pleated version of the tank top. First of all, take all the pleats, fold them in half, wrong sides together, and press. You will quickly notice that the pleats are shorter than the side seam. This is necessary to make sure that the pleats lay flat against your body. To ensure they are stretched equally across the side seam, make sure to transfer all the notch markings both on the pleats and the front bodice. Grab your longer pleat and align its raw edges with the front bodice. Like this, the pleat will be facing towards the center. First, pin it at the center, then at the hem and at the shoulder. If you want to add more pins, stretch the pleat and pin it in place. But make sure that you do not stretch the front bodice. So a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Here we talk about this little contraption called the walking foot. It can be very helpful sewing the garments. Simply remove your regular foot and attach the walking foot. It will help to feed the fabric from the top and will help you to avoid any stretching. The walking foot is by no means necessary. It's just a nice addition to your sewing gadgets. Just like that, you attach the first set of pleats. Now you will quickly notice that the pleat bounced back and caused some puckering at the side seam. This will be quickly sorted out with the ironing. Carefully press the front bodice, gently stretching this pleat. And just look at this difference. Fold the pleat towards the center front, exposing the raw edge as grab the longer side panel and attach it right sides together with the front bodice. Like this, the pleats will be sandwiched in between the front bodice and the side panel. Note that the side panel is the same length as the side seam, and it does not need to be stretched. A little tip, flip the tag over and attach the side panel by sewing over the seam attaching the pleat. This will help you to ensure that the pleat is evenly attached. Now you can finish the raw edges. Make sure to adjust the serger tension as you will be serging over 4 layers of fabric. Press the pleats towards the side seam. This is very important. You could even hand baste them in place to make sure you don't accidentally flip them. And just like that, the first set of the pleats is complete. Now we will move to the second set of pleats. These pleats are also shorter than the side seam. To ensure that they are stretched equally, mark the notches on the side panel and the pleats. These notches mark the center of the seam. Align the raw edges of the pleat with the side seam and pin at the center, shoulder, and the hem. Stretch the pleats and add more pins if needed. Once again, make sure you stretch the pleats but not the side seam. So a 3/8 of inch or 1 cm seam allowance. As you can see here, I carefully stretch the pleat ensuring that the side seam is not stretched. Once both pleats are sewn in place, we will give them a really good press. As the pleats are shorter, they tend to bounce back and cause some puckering. This can be sorted out by carefully stretching the pleats while pressing them. At this stage, you don't need to finish the raw edges as we will continue to sew the side panel. Grab the side panel and align it with the raw edge of the pleat, right sides together. The side panel is the same length as the side seam, so you don't need to stretch it. Pin the panel in place. Here, again I recommend to flip the tank so you could sew over the seam attaching the pleat. This will help you to control the movement of the needle and keep the straighter stitch line. And now you have your pleats attached. The only thing left is to finish the raw edges. If you are using the serger, make sure to adjust the tension as you are going to serge over 4 layers of fabric. Give the tank a really good press, making sure that the pleats are folded towards the side seam. And that's how your finished pleats look, from the right side and from the wrong side. And just like that, we are done with the front part of the pleated version. From now on, both the pleated and the plain version of the tank top will be sewn in the same manner. Now we will sew side seams and shoulder seams. Place the front and back of the tank top right sides together and pin side seams and shoulder seams. Sew a 3/8 of an inch or 1 cm seam allowance. Most of the time the knit garment is sewn directly on the serger. However, if you are a beginner, I would recommend to machine stitch the seam first for some added stability. Here I'm repeating the same steps on the plain tank top version. And just like that, we completed the step. I will walk you through 2 methods on how to attach the bands to the tank top. The first method has a traditional tank top look, which usually needs a cover stitch machine to achieve that look. However, I'm going to show you how to get this look with a simple twin needle. The second method will give you a bit more like a t-shirt type of finish. It is faster and easier method. But stay tuned, check them both out and see which one you prefer. Grab your armbands and neckband. Now, because the neckband on the high neck variation is almost the same length as the armbands, I will mark my neckband so I know which one it is. Fold all bands in half, right sides together, and sew the short edge at 3/8 of the inch or 1 cm seam allowance. You do not need to finish the raw edges of the band, simply press them open. You will quickly notice that the bands are shorter than the neck opening and armholes. This is necessary to ensure that they lay flat against your body. To ensure that they are stretched equally, you will need to divide the bands in quarters. The seam you just made on the short edge of the band will be your center back. While the band is still folded in half, mark your center front. Then, match the center front and center back markings and mark your quarters. Here I'm also marking quarters on the bands that go for the armholes. We will also need to divide the neck opening into quarters. Grab the shoulder seams and match them to find the center front and center back. Now you're probably tempted to mark the quarters at the shoulder seams, but the front neck opening usually is lower than the back, and that is why the shoulders would not be the accurate marking of the quarters. To find the quarters, you need to match the center front and center back markings and align the raw edges. This will help you to find the quarter, which falls just before the shoulder seam. For the armholes, the Nella pattern has notches marking the quarters on the back, and on the front, the quarter falls on the first pleat. I will repeat the same quartering steps for the plain version of the tank top as well. For this method, I recommend to serge one long edge of the band. While this step is optional, it will help you to achieve a neat finish. Now grab the long edge of the band that is not serged, and right sides together, pin it to the main bodice. First, pin the quarters. If you need more pins, stretch the band and pin it in place. But be very careful stretching the band so you would not stretch the neck opening. Now repeat the same steps on the armholes. First, align the seams of the band with the side seam, then match the quarters. Similarly to the neckband, stretch the band for additional pins if needed. Now you're ready to sew the bands in place. Sew at 3/8 of an inch or 1 cm seam allowance. While sewing, I recommend to take it slow and carefully stretch the band while at the same time making sure that the neck opening and armholes are not stretched. This is how it looks at this stage. Now turn the tank inside out. You will need to fold the band to the wrong side of the tank. Pull the band away from the bodice and then fold it again to enclose the seam you have just made. I really strongly recommend to hand baste the band in place to ensure that it's stretched equally and the raw edges will not roll out. This is where the magic with the twin needle will happen. Grab your twin needle and from the right side of the tank, sew the band in place. For the best look, I recommend to increase the stitch length to 3 or 3.5. And there you have it, beautiful 2 lines of stitching. Remove the basting stitches and give the band a really good press. For the second method, fold the bands in half and give them a really good press. Chop the corners of the seam to reduce the bulk and attach the folded neckband right sides together with the main bodice. First, mark the quarters, and if you need more pins, carefully stretch the band and add the pins. You could go straight to the serger, but I recommend to machine baste it in place first, so you could carefully stretch the band and avoid stretching the neck opening. Once the band is attached, you can finish the raw edges with the serger. Press the seam allowances towards the bodice. And that is it, your neckband is attached. Now you just need to repeat the same steps to attach the armbands. This is the finished look of both armband and neckband. Give them another really good press and you're done. Here you can compare the 2 methods side by side. Which one do you prefer? The last step is to hem the tent. First, serge the raw edges of the tent. Be careful when working on the pleated version. Make sure that the pleats are folded towards the side seam. Here you can see I almost serge over the pleat that was folded the other way. Now fold the hem towards the wrong side and hand baste it in place. Hand basting will help you to ensure that the hem is not twisting while sewing it. You can also press the hem before sewing to ensure it stays in place. We will be using the twin needle here again to get this very nice professional finish that you usually get only with the cover stitch machine. Remove the basting stitch and press the hem in place when you're done. I will repeat the same steps on the plain tank version. And here you can see the finished hem of both tanks. You can see the serging gives a really neat finish, and you don't even see the zigzag stitching created by the twin needle. And here you can see the finished tank tops and how they turned out. Thank you for watching so along with me. Please like this video and subscribe to my small channel, as well as follow me on Instagram. This will help me a ton to grow my channel. Thank you and see you in the next video.